Hi, today we're going to talk about how GP handles the difference when you purchase inventory in purchase order processing if the amount on the shipment is different than the amount of the invoice. So to start with, we're going to look at the inventory item that we're going to purchase today, and this is our multi-core processor. I'm going to open up the class and you can see we have this option here to revalue inventory for cost variance, and this is where we're going to play with how we handle it. Now this is actually set up for items, but it's set up through the class itself, so you'll need to set it up in the class and let the changes roll down. And we're going to start by leaving it unmarked, and we'll see what happens when we do this. So I'm going to just save that, and in purchase order we'll create a purchase order for this processor. And I'm going to purchase it for $17,000. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is receive that PO. So I'm only receiving the shipment, not the invoice. So if you look at my distribution, you can see I am crediting my accrued purchasing account and I'm debiting my inventory account. So let's go ahead and post this. And now let's say the invoices come in. So I'll go to Enter Match Invoice, and I will key in my invoice number. I'll go to Auto Invoice and select that PO line. But one of the things I'm noticing as I'm looking at the invoice is that my price has changed to $17,500. So after I tab through that, I'll get a warning that my unit cost on the invoice is different than the cost on the shipment. And that is correct, so I'll say yes. And you'll notice I get this visual cue of the not equals here, so I can, or the equal sign with the line running through it, so I can see that the unit price is different. If I go to distribution now, you'll see that I'm debiting my accrued purchasing account to offset the other. My accounts payable is credited the amount of the invoice, which is the way it should be, so I can pay that. And the difference of the $500 is going to my inventory variance account, which is set up for the item itself. I'll show you where that's set up in just a moment. So I'll go ahead and post that. So let's pull the item back up. And if we go to accounts, you can see I have my inventory purchase price variance account right here, and this is where it's getting that line from, right here, purchase price variance. So let's go back to the class ID, and this time I'm going to choose to mark it, and I'm going to go ahead and mark it with 1%, and I'll show you how it utilizes this tolerance percent, whether it's 0 or 1% as we go through the process. I'll row down my changes, and we're going to create another purchase order, and we'll do it exactly the same way with the exact same amounts. I'll select the processor, the unit of measure of each. I'll set my unit price as $17,000, and I'm going to put it in the warehouse. So far exactly the same. I'm going to go ahead and receive the items, and again my distribution will be to credit accrued purchases and to debit inventory, and I'll post that. So now the invoices come in, and I'm going to go to my Enter Match Invoice to key in the invoice. And I'll click on Auto Invoice, and here it is. That's the one I want to have on my invoice. But as I'm reviewing my invoice to my actual receipt of goods, I see that the price has changed to $17,500. And as I tab through again, I get my message again that the unit cost on the invoice is different than the shipment. And I see the visual cue again. And if I go to distribution this time, it's a little bit different. My debited of accrued purchases is the same. My accounts payable account is the same. But instead of expensing it to that purchase price variance, it's actually increasing my inventory value for that amount. And that's a good thing, so I'll go ahead and click OK. But what happens if it's less than that 1% tolerance? Now let's do that now. So let's say $17,050. Again, I get my warning message. I'll go to distributions, and this time you'll notice that the $50 is being expensed to the variance, and that's because that $50 difference is less than my tolerance level. I said up to 1%, go ahead and expense it, don't worry about putting it in inventory. If it's greater than 1%, then I want to put it in inventory. Now, why would you want to have it marked or unmarked? If you have it unmarked and you put that variance and expense it, then you could sell the inventory for the same cost you received it at. The problem occurs if you go ahead and add it to your inventory value is if you purchase the inventory and it comes in on a shipment and you immediately sell it to a customer, and then the invoice comes in and you either going to decrease or increase the inventory value, you're going to end up with an inventory value of your dollars sitting in your general ledger and sitting in your inventory, even though your quantity of inventory will be zero. So you want to think about how quickly you sell or receive your inventory, what kind of inventory valuation you use, and these are all factors that are going to help you determine whether or not you want to put in to revalue the inventory when the cost is different. And if you're someone who can see on the packing slip when you receive goods what the cost is, then this wouldn't apply to you. I hope this helps. It's a pretty complicated scenario, but I hope it helps. Thanks.